I'm Beth, and this is Summer, and we are Chic Crochet. I received so many messages from you about this hexagon cardigan that I was wearing in a recent video, so I'm going to show you how to make it today. This cardigan is seaside inspired. I was trying to achieve a more elevated style of the hexi. This is why I've chosen to leave the sleeves open and flowing and give it a length that hits more at the waist and not too long, also not gathering at the bottom. I didn't want it to be too busy, but I did want some color variation and some contrast, which is why I've chosen 3 complementary colors. The colors I've used are Cerulean, Cerulean C, and White, and these are at Hobby Lobby by Yarn Bee Yarnspirations. It's a size 2 sport weight yarn. In this tutorial, we'll be making this one, which is the same colors but just in a different order. So for your primary color, if you're about my size, I am about 5'3" and I have kind of a slender build. This is going to be a measure as you go, so no need for gauge swatches, but you will want to estimate how much yarn you're going to need. For my size, I needed 5 skeins. So for my primary color, the cerulean, the darker blue, is my primary color in this particular one. I needed 2 skeins of that and 2 skeins of the white, and then only 1 skein of the cerulean C because we only have 1 round of 4 rows on each side for that, so you won't need a lot. The great thing about the Hexi Cardi is you just keep going until it fits you. If you're unsure of how much you'll need, buy a little extra, because no one wants to get into a game of yarn chicken when you're almost finished with your beautiful sweater. That's so discouraging. So just get some extra and make sure you have enough. At the end, I'm going to do a little fashion show and show you some different ways of styling your sweater, because no one needs to sacrifice style for comfort. We can have both. I'll see you on the other side. Skill level for this project is Advanced Beginner. Skills needed are magic green, single crochet, double crochet, and the stacked single crochet. But please don't worry, if you haven't mastered some of these skills yet, I will be suggesting some alternatives. Instead of the magic ring, you can make a chain 4 and join, and for the stacked single crochet, simply chain 3. Materials needed are sport weight yarn, 6mm hook, large needle, scissors, and stitch markers. As I said earlier, this is the exact yarn that I used, and I needed 2 skeins of the primary blue and 1 skein of the secondary blue that I used, and then 2 skeins of white. If you choose a different yarn and hook size, just remember, the thinner the yarn and larger the hook size, the looser the drape of your garment. And by the same token, the smaller the hook size and thicker the yarn, the more dense and heavier your garment will be. So I'm going to be using the magic ring method. If you don't know how to make a magic ring, you can go into my Fall Granny Square Bag tutorial, episode 1, and you can learn how to make the magic ring there. So I've started my magic ring, and I'm going to just go right into using the stacked single crochet method. If you don't want to use that method, all you need to do is chain 3. But for me, if you want to learn how to do this and don't know how, this is how I do it. I go right into making a single crochet into the ring, and then I'm going to go between those 2 loops right there, right in the middle, and I'm going to pull up a loop, and then I'm going to pull through 2 again, and I like mine 3 stacked 3 high. You can use 2 if you want, but for me and my tension, I prefer 3. So I'm going to go back in between those 2 loops again, pull up a loop, and then I'm going to pull through 2. So that is my stacked single crochet. Now that will be my first double crochet, and I'm going to make 2 more. There's 1, 2, to make 3, excuse me, just so I don't confuse you. So the first one was my stacked single crochet, double crochet, double crochet. So that makes my cluster of 3 double crochet. Now I'm going to lay this down just a moment, and I'm going to get my stitch marker, and I am going to mark my stitch. That's the first loop I made, second loop, third loop. This is the loop I'm going to slip stitch back into when we come back around. So if you have a hard time finding that, if you're a beginner or even not a beginner, I still have a hard time sometimes finding my loop. So it's just a time saver to mark your loop, and then you won't have any problem coming back around. I like to chain 1 in between my clusters. if you have tighter tension, you might want to chain 2. That's totally up to you. But for me, I always chain 1 in between my clusters. And now I'm making my second cluster. There's my first double crochet of my second cluster. And here's my next one and my next one. So that's 3 more double crochets, which makes my next cluster. Since this is a Hexi Cardi, Hexagon has 6 sides, so you are going to make 6 clusters of 3. We've got 2, I'm going to chain 1, and now I'm making the third cluster. There's my third one. I'm going to chain 1, and this yarn is a little bit slippery. It does seem to slip off my hook, but I've gotten used to it, and honestly, I've been wearing that sweater for a week or so now, and I love it so much, even though the yarn may not be my favorite yarn, as far as it just has some characteristics, like it's a little fuzzy. If you're wearing black under it, it might leave fuzz on your clothing, but it's really comfortable and I like it. So I'm not going to change the type of yarn just because it feels so good. And it's such a pretty finish. So that was my 4th cluster. I chained 1, and now I'm making my 5th cluster. And now I'm going to chain 1 and make our last cluster, which will be our 6th one. See, it keeps slipping off, and that does happen. You can use any kind of yarn you want. So now I'm going to take out my stitch marker. And there's my loop. I can still see it. It's right here. And I have chained 1, and I'm going to slip stitch, go under both of those loops, and just slip stitch straight through. There we go. Now, okay, we can see that we've got 6 clusters. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going back into that chain space, the single chain I just made before I slipped, and I'm going to do a stacked single crochet. I'm going under, I'm going to pull through both loops, so I'm going back into that first loop, I'm going to pull up another loop, I'm going to pull through both loops, I'm going back into that middle of that, I'm going to pull up a loop, and then I'm going to pull through both. So that is my stacked single crochet, which will be my first double crochet. I'm going to make another double crochet and another double crochet for that first cluster of our next row. Now, let's put our stitch marker back in. So as you can see, that's our first stitch, second stitch, third stitch, and the stitch marker, I'm going to put it under both loops of that stitch right there, which will be the one I slip stitch back into when I come back around. Now, I'm going to pull my magic ring closed, and it's going to pucker a little bit. So don't worry if it does not lay flat, because once it gets larger, it definitely should not lay flat. Laying flat is not a characteristic that you need to worry about. It should not be laying flat. So this cluster that I just made is going to be a corner. Every one of these chain 1 spaces that you made in between your clusters is going to be a corner. And so you're going to have 6 corners. Every corner will have 2 clusters. So you will finish that corner when you come back around. Okay? All right, so let's continue. You are not going to chain 1 here. You don't chain 1 unless you are in a corner. If you're making the space in between the 2 clusters in a corner. So we are not chaining 1. Do not chain at all. You're just going to go straight into your next double crochet. So we're doing a cluster of 3 right here. That was 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to chain 1 because we are making a corner. Chain 1, do your second cluster of that corner. There's 1, 2, 3. Now, do not chain. You see your chain space right there from our first row? Okay, so do not chain now. Do not chain. Yarn over and go straight into that space with a double crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3. Now chain 1, go back into that same space, and we're finishing that corner. 1, 2, 3. So now we've made our second full corner. I'm going to lay it down in case you're new to this hexagon so you can see. So there is our first completed corner. Has the chain 1 space in the middle between the 2 clusters. No chain space here. There is a space, but it's caused just because we skipped from here to here. But you do not chain 1 right here. You do not need to. Then you make your next cluster of this corner, be your first cluster of this second corner. And there is your chain 1 space, and then your next cluster. Now we're going to start our next corner, but we are not going to chain 1. We're going to yarn over, and we're going straight into that next space. And there's our 3 clusters. And now we are going to chain 1 because we're making another corner. You go straight into that cluster. Yarn over, go in. There we go. Okay, so that is our next corner. Now, do not chain 1, yarn over, go straight into that next space. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 3 double crochet, and chain 1 because we are making a corner. Now we're making our second cluster of that corner. All of these stitches are all in that same space. Okay, so on these corners, all of those stitches are going into 1 space. Are you seeing that? Okay, now do not chain 1, yarn over, go into the next space. Excuse me, slipped right off the hook again. This is my third double crochet of that cluster. Now we get to chain 1 because we're making a corner. Go back into that space and make 3 more double crochet. All right, now we are to where we started. So remember I said we've only made half of that first corner. Now we're going to make the second half. So we're going to go straight into that space. Don't chain 1. Go straight into that space with 3 more double crochet. There's 1, 2, and 3. And now you are going to chain 1 and gently, well, you can do it while you have your stitch marker in there if you need to. You can go in so you don't lose it. Just make sure you go through under both of those loops. And now I'm going to take out my stitch marker and I'm going to slip stitch. So I'm just going to yarn over, pull through, and then pull straight through. And I've slip stitched. Okay, so now we have made our second round. Now, can you see how it's starting to look like a hexagon? So we've got 1 side, 2 sides, 3 sides, 4 sides, 5 sides, 6 sides, and our corners. 1 corner, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 corners. Okay, is that making more sense now? All right, let's proceed because the next row is going to be different. And then once we get past the 4th or 5th row, it's going to make a lot more sense and you'll know exactly what to do. Okay, so we're going to make, again, you can chain 3 if you don't want to do the stacked single crochet. So just chain 3, 1, 2, 3, or follow me and do the stacked single crochet. And I'm going to stack it 3 times. So I'm going to go straight into that space and start my stacked single crochet. So go under, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both, go back into the middle of that stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through both. Go back into the middle of that stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through both. All right, now there's the top of that stitch. I'm going to go ahead and put in my stitch marker. You can do it now, or you can do it after you've made your other 2 clusters, whichever you prefer. Just don't lose track of it. And now I'm going to do 2 more double crochets. And this is the first half of the first corner. I will finish this corner when we come back around. All right, now do not chain 1. Just yarn over, go straight into that next space with 3 more double crochet. This is not a corner. Now we're on the sides. So this is when it starts getting a little different if you're not used to doing granny squares or working with any shape of granny. So that is a side. It will make more sense when we get to the end if you want to just follow me to the end and then rewind and work along with me. Okay, so do not make a chain. Just go straight into that next space, which is our corner. Now we're back into a corner. So do 3 double crochets. Now you get to chain 1 because we're working in that corner. And you're going to make 3 more double crochets, all in that one space. You're going to have 1 cluster, a chain, 1 cluster, 1 chain, and another cluster, all in that space. So that is our corner. Now we are on the side again of our hexagon. So we're not going to chain 1. We're going straight into that space with another double crochet cluster. All right, now we're back over to the corner. So do not chain, go straight into that space with another cluster. And if I'm going too slow for you, you can just speed on ahead and catch up with us later down the line. Now you're going to chain 1 because we are in that corner. So you can do 3 more double crochets. Excuse me, slipped right off again. Slippery little devil. And then we're going to go into the side. Now we're on the side again, so we're not going to chain. We're just going to go directly into that space with 3 more double crochets. Now we're back into a corner where there's 2 clusters in the chain space, so we're going to repeat that. Do not chain 1 here. Just yarn over, go straight into that space. Chain 1 for your corner. Go back in with 3 more double crochets. And now we're in the side again, so do not chain 1. Just go directly into that space with another cluster of 3 double crochets. Oops. Okay, sorry. Slipped off. Okay, we're back to a corner. Do not chain. Just go directly in there with 3 double crochets. One chain, 3 double crochets. Okay, here we go. There's our corner. We are to the side again, so do not chain. Just go directly into that space with 3 double crochets. All right, and do not chain. We're to the last corner, not the last corner, but the last full corner. We're almost back around to where we started. So do not chain. Just go straight into that next space with a cluster of 3 double crochet. Then you do chain 1 because we are in the corner, and you're going to do another cluster of 3 double crochet. All right, now do not chain, just yarn over, go into that space with one cluster of 3 double crochet. And now we are back where we started. So we only have one cluster in that corner, which is where we started. So we're going to make our second cluster. Do not chain yet, just yarn over and go straight into that corner with our last cluster and chain 1. And then we are going to slip stitch right there where we left our stitch marker. I'll take him out. Oopsie. And I'm going to pull straight through, and there we have our third round. So now I hope this starts making more sense to you. Do you see how it's not wanting to lay flat? It should not lay flat, so don't even worry about that. Yours should not be lying flat either. So you've got a corner, 1 on the side, a corner, 1 on the side, a corner, 1 on the side, and so forth. So the next round, we're going to add more clusters to the side. You're going to have 2 clusters on the side. So in this space, you're going to have a cluster, and this space, you're going to have a cluster before you get to each corner. So here we have a corner, 1 cluster for the side, and a corner. So the next row, we're going to have a corner, 2 clusters on the side, and a corner, and it will just build from there. So I'm going to go through this next row with you, but I'm probably going to go a little faster. Okay, I'm going to do, you can chain 3 or do your stacked single as I am doing. Okay, I do it 3 times. You can do it 2 times if you wish, or like I said, you can just do the chain method if that's how you like it. It doesn't make a huge difference, but I've gotten in the habit of doing the stacked single crochet and I just prefer the look of it. All right, now we're in the side. So I did not chain 1, I just went directly into that side. So it's going to get 1 cluster. Now I'm in the next space on the side and it's no chain in between those 2 clusters, and I'm going straight into the next cluster. You only chain 1 when you are in a corner. Okay, no chain again. Going into the corner with the next cluster. Now I chain 1. I hope that's making sense to you when you chain 1 and when you don't, because when I was first learning, I had the hardest time figuring that out. I had the hardest time understanding when to chain and when not to. I don't know why that was so hard for me, but I just had a hard time remembering. So I'm hoping that me repeating myself is helping you remember if you have that problem as I did. So, okay, so no chain, no chain, no chain, cluster in the corner, chain, other cluster in the corner. So between the 2 corner clusters is the only time you're going to chain. Never on the sides, only this one time. No chain here, going straight into this next cluster. Back to the corner. Chain 1. No chain, go straight into the next space with a cluster of 3. No chain, skip over to the next space and do another cluster of 3. no space, or excuse me, no chain, skip over to the next space and start your first cluster of your corner. Chain 1, do your next cluster of that corner. I'm on a side now, so I did not chain. Just went straight into that space with my next cluster of 3, and I'm going to do that again with this other space on the side. No chaining, just a single cluster of 3. Now I'm going into my corner. Do not chain when you first go into that corner. Do your cluster of 3. Then chain 1 and do your last cluster of that corner. Do not chain, go directly into that next space on the side. Do a cluster of 3. Do not chain, go into the next cluster, or the next space, excuse me, with your cluster of 3. Go into the corner directly, no chaining. Do the first half of that corner. Chain 1, go back in and do the next cluster. Okay, let's see how many, we are almost done. So we have got to do 2 more clusters on the side. There's 1, and there's 2. And now we're going into the last cluster of that corner. So I did that. Those 3 double crochet, chain 1, and now I am going to slip stitch back where I started with my stitch marker. I'm going to slip that in there, and I'm going to take off my stitch marker and pull all the way through. Okay, now it's looking more like a hexagon, but it is wanting to pucker, and that's perfectly normal. So if you take the opposite corner to corner like this, you're going to see, you're going to start getting that L shape. And as this grows bigger, it will become more of an L shape, and that will be your torso, your body, and your sleeve. And it's just going to grow and grow and grow, and you're going to make 2 panels. Then we will seam them together, and it will start to make more sense as we go if you've never made one. Let's pop in here for a moment and talk about how many rows of each color that you're going to want to do. So for mine, I think what I like about this sweater the most is there's not a lot of different color, and it's also multiple rows of each color, so the sweater is just not as busy, which I prefer. I didn't want it monochromatic, completely where it's just all one color. I wanted a little variety and depth. I wanted it to be a little more dynamic. In this particular one, this is the one I've been wearing for a while. The one I'm making now will be the same colors, but I'm doing it in a different order. So you pick the colors in order that you want. But if you want to do it exactly like I did, after you get the first 7 rows done, then it is 4 rows of each color. And after we finish the cerulean, we'll switch over to the cerulean C and do this band, which will be 4 rows. So we're going to finish this, keep going until you have 7 rows of your first color, if you want it just like mine. And then I will join you when we start this second band, and I'll show you how to join and get started on this band. I finished my 7 rows, and you can see how it does not lay flat. And I say rows, rounds really, because we're doing this in the round, but I use those terms interchangeably. And you can see it does not lay flat. And as I said before, you can join corner to opposite corner, and that will make the L shape. That will be your sleeve and bodice or body. And I am going to show you how I join. So I use an invisible join method instead of just pulling it through and having the little knot when you finish off that way. So you do not chain one in the corner if you're finishing off and using this method. You just do your last double crochet and then cut your yarn and pull it through, and then you're going to thread this onto a needle, and then you're going to go through the top of your first stitch, which is here. Now, if we were not needing a chain space in this corner, if we wanted these to just be joined directly together, we would skip one and go ahead to this space, because what we're doing is we're creating a faux stitch. So we're adding a stitch basically. So you're going to go under these two loops, you're going to pull it through, and then you're going to go back through the middle of this, the top of this stitch right here. And you're going to go straight down, and we're making a stitch. See? Instead of having that little knotty nubby look when you just cut your yarn and pull it through, this is just a nicer finished look. And I'm going to weave in my ends, and I do that by going down through here and kind of going into that corner. And I like to use the method where you switch directions 3 times. Since this yarn is a little more slippery, I'm going to go through probably more than 3 times, just because I want to make sure it doesn't slip out, since it is a little slippery. And these Susan's Bates needles, they're fairly pointy, and you can kind of like weave them in and out of the fibers instead of just poking straight through, and it will give you a little extra security. So I think that is enough, and I'm going to cut my yarn. So I'm going to tell you a little sad story here. This, you can see this is the front of our work, and this is the back of our work. It's really important when you're changing colors to make sure you are attaching and starting on the front of your work. And I've already made the first panel for this, and the sad story is that I did this. So this is the back of the work. I did not realize it until it was entirely too late. I was almost finished with the entire panel before I realized it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to intentionally start this wrong, because I just want both of the sides to look the same. When I'm wearing it, I don't think anyone's ever going to notice this, but you are going to attach to the right side of your work. I am going to attach to the wrong side of my work so that both of my panels will look the same. The moral to the story is here. D, D, W, B, D. Don't do what Beth did. So please don't do what I did or what I'm about to do. So you're going to attach to the right side of your work. I'm going to attach intentionally to the wrong side of my work and work the rest of my work. The rest of my colors will be the right side up, but my armpit is going to be the wrong side out. I'm very sick about this, but I just don't have time to start over. To fasten on, you're going to take your next color, and in my case, I'm using the Cerulean Sea, and you're going to slip stitch onto your hook. And I am in the habit of taking the yarn off of my hook, going through where I want to start, and then putting it back on. That's just how I do it. You can do it however you like, but you do not need to start in a corner necessarily. And I typically start on the side, and I don't start in the same place every time I switch colors. I just kind of mix it up so there's not a real defined line down through there that you can see where you attached every time. It just, to me, it makes it a little more invisible. So I am attaching with slip stitch. And then I'm going to go back, and I did into the side. One of the spaces in the side, I didn't do the corner. You can do the corner if you like, but I feel like it's a little easier to do one of the spaces on the side. And I'm going to start with my stacked single crochet. I'm going to go under, pull up a loop, pull through both, go through the middle of the stitch, pull up another loop, yarn over, pull through both, go through the middle of the stitch, yarn over, pull through both. And we're going to finish that cluster with 2 more double crochet, because we are starting on the side. It is not going to be a corner. We are not going to chain 1. We're going straight into that next space on the side and do 3 double crochet. Next space, same thing, 3 more double crochet. Next space, same thing, 3 double crochet. Next space, same thing, 3 double crochet. And then we are back to our corner. Do not chain 1 just yet. Hold on. Go back in there, do 3 double crochet in your first corner cluster. There's our first corner cluster, chain 1. Do another cluster of 3 double crochet for the next half of that corner. And keep on going, and I will meet you after you have done 4 rounds of this next color. So we finished the 4 rows of cerulean C. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So remember, I said on the other panel I had the center row, the center color, facing the wrong direction. So I'm going to continue with the right side up and try not to turn it again. So the right side, wrong side out is going to show in the armpit, but that's the way it is on the other panel. So I'm just going to continue that way, and just don't do what I did, and make sure that the right side of your stitches are showing on all of your rounds. And I'm going to finish off with the invisible join on this round like I showed you the last time, so I'll show you again. If you don't want to see it again, you can skip over, but we're going to thread the yarn, and this time we're not joining in a corner, so we're going to skip over this first stitch because we're creating another stitch, and we're going to go to the second stitch, go under both bars there, both threads of that stitch, pull it all the way through, and then going to come over here to where we are joining, so you can see where it's coming out. That thread is coming out of this stitch. You're going to go back into the center of that stitch and just go straight down and pull through and make a faux stitch, so the top of your work is going to not have that fussy little knot in it. It's going to look like that. And I'm just going to finish that off, and by weaving in my ends. And now we're going to do 4 rows of the cerulean, and the cerulean is the darker blue. So I'm going to fasten on. You can do that anywhere. You can do it in the same place where you just finished off, or you can pick another location. I do not really like to do that in the corners, so I like to fasten on the sides. That's just my preference. And you just pull through, make a slip stitch, and you can chain 3 or do the stacked single crochet as I am doing. I'm going to put in my stitch marker. And I'm going to continue on the round. my second double crochet of that cluster, third double crochet of that cluster, then I'm going into that space and across the side and continue on around. So I'm going to make 4 rounds of this color, and when I'm finished, I'll meet you back and we will fasten back on with our next color, which is the white.